Hi, welcome back to our series on Uncommon Success, How Family Stewards Produce Intentional Wealth. I'm David Witter, founder and CEO of Financial Harvest Wealth Advisors. And today we're moving into Chapter 8, which is Leaving a Legacy. And as many of you know as you're watching this, when you have success and you near end of life, you begin to think about not only leaving money to loved ones and to family members and to charities, but also leaving the values and principles and the way of thinking about what to do with that money so that it has maximum use and utility for doing good. And as we interviewed our 45 family stewards, we noticed that that was top of mind for them as well. So as customary, I wanted to move into the 4 best practices when it came to leaving legacies. The first is leaving a specific asset to each child. In other words, avoiding leaving assets jointly. The purpose here is, let's say that you have a son and daughter and you leave a beach condo to them jointly. One of them may be wanting to continuously maintain the property to an optimal level, and the other one maybe wants to defer maintenance. Or how do they split the property taxes? There may be disagreements with how to handle that with the property. So an alternative to avoid that kind of potential conflict or friction is to leave a specific asset, maybe the beach condo, to one child, and maybe another asset like your primary residence or a place in the mountains to another child. Second best practice here is when gifting to your children, like while you're alive, maybe you're giving to the annual exclusion, gift to not only a child but also their spouse. This really gives a sense of belonging and including that spouse, and gives them a sign of the respect that you have for them as they go to build their own family. Great success story here. One of our interviewees said that he and his wife had given a sizable check to their newly married daughter, been married about 3 months, to her and her husband. The son-in-law, the new son-in-law, when he received the check, pushed back from the table and was very uncomfortable and says, "We can't take this." Well, the next day, the family steward took him on a walk and he said, "Look, I want to make sure you understand this in no means is a way of expressing our doubt or our concern about you being able to provide and take care of our daughter. We have 100% confidence and faith in you in that regard. But it gives us great joy to be able to give, but it's your money. And you and your wife, you decide what to do with that money, whether to give it, to spend it, to save it. That's your decision." He said that has really opened a great space for he and his son-in-law to have a great relationship, and it took all that friction away. Best practice number 3 is naming co-trustees. So a typical strategy might be to name a successor trustee as a child or a family member, but that could put a lot of stress and burden on them when those assets go to be transferred. Name a professional co-trustee allows the professional to come in and maybe help out with the money decisions, but obviously the trusted loved one knows the family situation the best, but having that co-trustee structure allows to have the best of both worlds, both the professional aspect of it with the professional trustee as well as the family member understanding the connections and the emotional activity within the family. Best practice number 4, which is the meatiest here, is involving the entire family. This brings in research from over 2,500 families that were both successful in passing down wealth to Generation 2 and Generation 3, as well as those that weren't successful. And the study actually looked at what were the biggest differences between those that are most successful and those that weren't successful. Number 1 on that list was transparency and inclusion. What does that mean? The Generation 1 being full disclosure, sharing with the adult children, this is what the estate looks like, this is how it's all set up, and asking for their input. What do you think would be responsible for passing assets to you and to your family? How much should we give to charity? How should we handle giving money to the foundation and managing that? Second most important aspect was that the family as a whole unit had a very clear mission statement. I like to call it a purpose for the wealth. The family itself all aligned and created that mission statement so that they were aligned in their thinking and the purpose with what to do with the wealth that's generated by the family as a whole. And thirdly is matching the skills and the desires with the roles within the family. For instance, someone in Generation 2 may be very good at managing the finances of it or the assets and want to be a part of that. But another one may not want to deal with that at all, but they're very good at the operations within the family business. Whatever that may be, find out what the desires and the skill sets are within the family and match those up so that they can participate in a way that's meaningful for them and also gives them a sense of fulfillment. So let's move into our checklist for your own self-assessment. First, if you're leaving assets to the next generation, think about which ones might be difficult to divide equally. Because if they want to keep that asset, it may cause friction if it's 50-50 ownership or 1/3 between 3 different siblings. Second is, how can you include the spouses of your children when you gift while you're still alive? Third, maintaining incentive. We think of this as work ethic. How do you assess the readiness? So one of the things we saw was when setting up a trust, instead of giving specific ages when money comes out, maybe you're looking at readiness. And then what is that plan for producing that readiness as your children mature? How would you decide how much to leave to charities and also leave to your loved ones? What's that split look like? Number 4 on a checklist is selecting an appropriate successor trustee or a trust protector. That might be an outside professional that steps alongside maybe a family member, or maybe a named professional solely and independently. That may help avoid family conflict. Also, are they qualified to make that readiness assessment? How have you trained them in terms of making the assessment of readiness on dispersion of assets? Do you use a bank, an independent professional, family friend? Those are all good options to be considering. Number 5, how can I involve the entirety of my family in terms of transferring that success to multiple generations? Have I been transparent and fully open about what the estate looks like in producing that trust? Do I seek their input and ask what's their thinking in terms of how to set this up and pass it down to the multiple generations successfully? Do we have a clear purpose and a mission statement for what it means to be wealthy, the responsibilities and sometimes burdens that comes with that, but also the privileges, and what is our purpose, intent with this wealth so that we can use it to good not only for the family but our communities that are involved? And lastly, how do I align my heirs' desires and skills to the roles that are needed within the family to have that success for multiple generations? So use this checklist to look at, are you having that uncommon success? And if you already are, how do you further it and continue it for multiple generations? And remember, it always begins with intention, followed up with taking action.